Whenever there's trouble, we're there on the double. We're the Bloodhound Gang. If you've got the crime, we've got the time. We're the Bloodhound Gang.
Is this on?
It's coming in. Am I coming in?
You're coming in. You're high and dry. You're in. Okay. Turn up my cans. It's like one of those old rap out. Yo. Welcome to another exciting edition of Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers.
Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers. Away. Whenever we do Facebook, whenever I write the thing on Facebook and I write the name of the cast in all caps.
You say it like that.
That's how movie. If you see that on the cast and I've written it all in caps, it's because that's in my head. That's how it's like pigs in space.
You should write it phonetically. Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers. Well, thank you for coming back with us. It is again a late Saturday night. We've done some things. We've gone to
many things.
Yeah, we've gone to the video store. We've selected a movie for this evening. We came back. We watched it, and then we've talked about it. Now we're putting it to tape.
Here's the thing. We're talking about the Warriors.
Yeah,
today.
1979.
1979. Walter Hill
my
classic.
man, my N-word.
I'm gonna jump right into it. In that, oddly enough, this is a movie that just completely slipped by.
I know.
Like me and my friends for like ever. You introduced me.
And
to
I
this
remember
movie.
the exact night. I have a very lurid history with this.
But just before we even watched it together, just like in college, you talking about it, like in that way, you introduced.
Which is weird because we invented this cast because we thought about we had such a affinity for the pastime of Saturday night movie sleepovers. That was what we did growing up. And if that is not a niche market, I think an even more niche in the weeds market is the Saturday or Sunday day movie. When you're stuck in the house on a Saturday or Sunday, there'd be movies that were just played, out into infinity, and they would just get played until the film or the videotape at the local channel just wore them out. And I'm talking about movies like 3 O'Clock High, freaking Weird Science, My Science Project, maybe Back to the Future, and certainly this one, The Warriors, was on that. And that's how I first saw it on WPIX and Channel 11, which is an affiliate in New York City here. I got it up in Connecticut, and I would start seeing this movie. And it was around 4th grade. It was introduced to me by my best friend because his brothers had introduced it to him, and they were big into rock, hair bands in the late 80s. So when I first saw this movie, it blew my mind. Like, oh my gosh. 4th grade, so you're what, 9, 10 maybe?
Okay.
Maybe a little, 8, 9. So between 8 and 10, I think. So
8, 9, 10,
11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I saw this in 4th grade, blew my mind, and for like a month, what we would do is after school, we'd go home to my friend Martin's house. We'd raid his brothers who were like into like Iron Maiden, Skid Row, all those big bands of the 80s.
And we like their jean vests.
Exactly. We put the jean vests on. We put like the weird lucky bunny rabbit foot like clips from hanging from your ears. You put all their stuff on. You put their jewelry on. They're tattered, Eddie things, and then you'd go and you'd go out in his backyard and play the Warriors.
Play Warriors.
And you do it all night until you had to go home and go for dinner, and that was a huge thing for me. And then it hit another pinnacle with me because when in 2003, after we graduated college in 2001, I moved to Yonkers with a friend of mine in 2004. And funny enough, we lived on the Yonkers-Woodlawn border, which was right at the top of the Bronx, Woodlawn on the east side of the Bronx. And right near it was the top of Van Cortlandt Park.
Yeah.
And Van Cortlandt Park was where, at the beginning of the Warriors, they're supposed to meet, and Cyrus has the big meeting at the Conclave. It wasn't filmed there, correct?
Well, actually, in the movie, they're supposed to meet at Pelham Bay Park.
Yeah.
But they get off the subway, then they walk through like a cemetery, and then they end up in a park. So,
well, it's
even
weird.
though it's supposed to be
Van Cortlandt Park, like in the book, but you're right. They go off
in the
the
movie,
wrong
I think
line.
it's supposed to be Pelham Bay Park, but they actually look like they end up going through.
When they leave, they go to Woodlawn Cemetery.
Yeah, well, so it looks like they actually probably is
Van Cortlandt or Pelham.
Cortlandt Park, but
Well, in the book, in my recollection, they're up at Van Cortlandt Park. Although you're right, at the last stop, it shows them going up to like Baychester or Eastchester on the subway line. You think if they were going to Woodland, there's a lot of discrepancies in the movie. If you know, because you watch Joe Bob Briggs. And he used to do that on Monster Vision. He'd have
Monster Vision, classic episode of Monster Vision. We were living together, freshman year of college. I want to say January of 98.
It was a Friday.
It was what it probably was a Friday. It was probably a Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
And he did Monster Vision, and what he did was he took a subway map.
Brilliant.
And at every commercial break,
he'd show you where they were.
He'd show you.
Report
and
there.
it was like, like he would be like, this is where they're supposed to be going. But he's like, judging from the movie, this is how I think they actually went.
Yeah.
And he would take the subway map and he would show you the route. He's like, okay, then they got up here at 96th Street, and they're going to be meeting down here at 14th Street. This is the rendezvous point on 14th Street. And he would show you he would chart.
But didn't he realize that they couldn't do it? Wasn't there some sort of inaccuracy? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think there was that's part of the Pelham Bay Park, the Van Cortlandt Park stuff, and then he would feel like this is what it looks like they took, and then he would be like, but if they were actually going to do this, this is actually this is the train they actually had to take.
The theory behind, aside from not bringing the book up yet, the theory behind them being at Van Cortlandt Park is after the whole thing goes south and they leave, they supposedly run into Woodlawn Cemetery.
Yeah,
that's where they tag the thing and they see the subway, and that's supposed to be Williamsbridge, Gun Hill Road. And that's where the Turnbell ACs, when they try to get on that subway to the upper level track, and the Turnbull ACs are there. They're the Gun Hill Road gang.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Yonkers, it was amazing to think, holy crap, I'm like blocks away from where Cyrus was having his meeting at the Conclave. And then I went to the Woodlawn Cemetery, very famous. Go research it. Tons of people buried there, musicians, famous people, everything. So then my roommate moved out. You moved in with me, and around the same time, this is 2005, in October, they release a new special edition of the movie, which was the director's cut, which I was all psyched about because at the time, I think the original movie had gone out of print. They only released it maybe once or twice on DVD.
Yeah.
And they did, as a joint release, they released a video game.
Yeah.
And the video game, so I don't remember if you watched the movie with me first, then I went out and bought the video game. And
I don't remember with the order. I think we watched it, you and Matt Garrison.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah, saxophone player that we also went to college with, great musician. Check out his music.
We watched it late one night. Very sleepover-esque. And it was really late.
And I remember you take aside, we don't even talk about the director's cut yet, but I remember you, I don't know if it was after the movie or during the movie, you said, wow, you finally put the movie in some sort of context to me, because I remember you said you had no idea really what the movie was about, so I guess you saw scenes of what was happening, but you'd never seen the beginning, so you never had a frame of reference of why it was happening.
I think when I watched it on Monster Vision, it came into it late or something.
And you're like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
And it was just a movie that completely slipped by, and it's funny because my friends and I in junior high, high school, we would have loved this movie. We would have made, my friends and I made, this is so geeky and nerdy, but we made 100 movies on video tape, 100 short films, everything from everything movies to a lot of crime dramas.
Yeah, we did the same thing. Ours more comedies. You went the higher brow. We were doing genre pictures.
Yeah, we made a war. We had made a Vietnam movie.
The crime. We did that in college. You and I ended up.
Yeah. Well, that was definitely an extension of what we were doing, and I can guarantee we would have watched this movie, and we would have had a Warriors-esque
movie up in Albany,
gang movie where we probably would have played all the gangs with different. It would have been so cheesy.
Well, that's how it was. That was the limitations of playing with the Warriors. You have to figure out who you are, and then what you do is you just run around and play make believe. You had nobody else really to fight gang wise. It was me and two people.
But I do have to admit, it slipped by me. Freshman year of college, you introduced me to the Warriors come out and play catchphrase, and so like you definitely were the one that kind of introduced this to me. Then through Monster Vision, whatever, I would see parts of it and this and that, and then we watched it together, and I have to admit, like, it's a movie that like I totally love.
I guess we will get into the director's cut later on. We decided for our purposes, we were going to be purists, and we were going to do the original theatrical cut, which I think, in my personal interpretation, is a way better movie.
Which is on Amazon Prime for everybody out there.
The original, which is weird because I don't think you can get.
And right now, it's also on like Epix. Actually, it was on TV as I was getting ready to come here
to do this cast. It's
and I was like, oh, we're gonna go watch this.
And it's not, but it's weird because you can't buy. The only one you're now allowed to buy is the director's cut version, which is not different, but it has a lot of stuff that I have issues with.
There was a DVD release, but it was like a no frills, like not remastered back in the day. When DVDs first, they were just throwing everything on DVD.
Yeah, that's the one I have. Yeah. I got that one. It was just basically like, interactive menu, maybe like a teaser trailer.
The special features. Interactive menu.
Wow. Cast bios. Non-interactive. There's just a picture of them with some stuff, not even like any paragraphs.
With like typos.
Jesus, everything's wrong. So this movie is like a cult classic. If you were to like look up cult in the dictionary, there's two kinds of cult classics. I guess there's like horror cult classics, like we bring up a lot, like say Carnival of Souls or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Or even we go way down the alley, you can get into like more niche stuff. And then there's these kind of cult movies, like I guess I say again, 3 O'Clock High, and these movies like The Wanderers, and this is one of them, The Warriors.
Like a definition of like a cult classic is really like a movie that didn't do gangbusters, but then found a very loyal audience.
Yeah, and then it's stayed alive in the public psyche because of the presence. It had its rebirth on whatever media, and for us, it was television. It was on like a Saturday afternoon all the time. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a ton of movies you can sit down and make a list of, like Daryl, Cloak and Dagger. You can think of all these movies that would just stay. Night of the Creeps, the TV version. You can just think of, which is kind of related to this movie. You can think of it. But today we're talking The Warriors. And The Warriors is such a crazy movie and a great movie, but it has this whole dichotomy, which I find real puzzling. When I saw it when I was little, I only just thought of it as just a movie. Like this is like this is what's happening, and it kind of fit into the Rubik's Cube of the era of like the late 70s, 80s, where you had the Dirty New York, you had the Escape from New York, you had these kind of movies that were like New York is a shithole, like we talked about Maniac, and this is what's happening.
Well, this is speaking of New York movies, and oddly enough, the movie we really talk about in New York movies is Weekend at Bernie's.
We get into the whole.
We get our big discussion about like gritty New York movies is in Weekend at
because we bring up how by the time you hit Weekend at Bernie's,
our podcast about Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, so go check out Weekend at Bernie's
if you want to hear us talk about New York.
We take a right hand turn because we talk about by the time like movies like Weekend at Bernie's or Crocodile Dundee came out, it became a parody that New York was such a dirty place, and it was like a joke, the butt of a joke.
But if we go like a decade earlier, we have like
Death
Warriors,
Wish,
we got Death Wish, we got Taken to Pelham 1, 2, 3, we got Taxi Driver,
we got Maniac.
This is we should I don't know, we should figure out like a month or something and just do
grit,
like,
New York
gritty, like 70s gritty, New York
Nighthawks, it's all those kind of things. And this movie, I never, to start getting into the bare bones of it, Walter Hill originally wanted to put like a little thing at the beginning saying like somewhere in the near future, and they took it out. And they eventually put it back in a 2005 release. But I never looked at it like it was in the future. To me, it just seemed like a product of the time. Like I had a friend of mine very recently who tried to watch it, and he turned it off. And this kid, I'm not going to divulge his name because he's going to get embarrassed, but he's like he's in his late 20s.
Protect the innocent.
Yeah, maybe I'll change his name. His name is like Jerry, and he couldn't get into it. He's like, it's so silly to me. And it's like, I guess the frame of reference is gone for younger generations because for me, it is dated, but it kind of like, we came out of an era where like hair metal bands were like freaky. You look at Commando, the bad guy in Commando, he wasn't like kind of like, he wasn't built, the guy from the Australian actor. He had like a metal chain shirt on, and that was like tight leather pants was freaky to us.
There was, because we were young, there was like this era of like mystery and intrigue.
Yeah.
Like I remember my cousin Tony, who was older, even a year or two older than my brother. So he was maybe like 6-7 years older than me. He had installed like a deadlock, like lock on his bedroom door.
So his parents couldn't gain entry.
Yeah. But like whenever I would go over to, because like my aunt would sometimes watch me if my mom had to work or whatever, and if I would go up and he was in his room, or that door was left kind of a little bit ajar, you'd walk into his room and it was always like posters of like Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, what is it? Bark at the Moon, or
Bark at the Moon, with him in the werewolf costume, and her with him with fangs, with like
in the insane asylum or whatever.
with Diary of a Madman, and then there was this live album where the cover is him with like vampire fangs, and there's like a little person dressed up as the Grim Reaper.
This is Ozzy
blood,
still.
Blood coming, and there was all these like posters, and I would just go in there and just like. It was probably really like the earliest introduction of like horror, kind of for me.
Well, that was
was like this imagery.
That was the era where you had like Twisted Sister, you had like Eddie from Iron Maiden. These were things were like freaky, and so it kind of lent itself to this kind of a movie where my suspension of disbelief
this
was
a little bit before that. But.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, kind of has influences off of like Kiss to a certain extent in like that era. But I mean, it wasn't unrealistic to me to think about in New York City that there were gangs and that they to delineate themselves, they had different niches. I mean, it is a stretch. You had a mime group called the Hi-Hats or the Boppers.
The mime group, the
overall
guys.
Yeah, the overall guys, the punks, But I really dug that each, gang had a niche. And truth be told, in real life, there were all these real gangs. They weren't, of course, dressing this, this is Hollywood, but they weren't dressing, this lavishly or, it was a dramatization, but there were gangs, and there's issues during the movie where the one of the trucks when they were shooting were protected by a real gang called the Mongrels, and the film trucks, they'd have to pay the gang $500 a day to keep the truck safe. There was another gang out in Coney Island actually called the Homicides, and they told the cast and crew, okay, you're cool to shoot with your actors on the subway platform in their colors, the warrior colors, but they have to take their colors off to go to the restaurant to eat, to go around Coney, or to shoot until you get onto the beach or into the Coney Island Park, because it's disrespectful for us if they're wearing their colors to go eat. So it's like there's like real, people up in arms about this. So they had to really delineate, and also when they were filming, they had to go talk to the NYPD gang units and the Transit Authority to make sure like what were the non-dicey places that looked dicey, but then they could still shoot it and not get hurt. So they had to. This was real in New York at the time.
That, and upon its release,
this is another crazy thing.
There was like it got blamed for you hear about movies that get blamed for like violence. Halloween 2. There's a case where someone murdered somebody and it got blamed, and Halloween 2 got blamed. And this is like something where upon the release of this movie, like there's all this violence. Like the weekend it came out in California, somebody got stabbed in the lobby of the movie theater where it was playing.
Yeah, well, it turned out to be an LA gang member.
And then like that same weekend, like in Palm Springs or Palm Beach or something like that, at a drive-in theater, somebody got shot in the head, like a teenager got shot in the head. And then in Boston, like a week later, like a Boston gang went to go see the movie together, and then on the way home, like stabbed some 16-year-old kid in the subway.
A random killing.
And then like there was this whole thing where like New York was mad because like the city of New York was like coming down on the movie because they thought that this movie introduced hopping the turnstile to teenagers.
Oh wow! Because that's how in the movie they just hop the turnstiles.
And so all this happened, and the media picked up on all this stuff that was going on, and and just like blamed Warriors. And so in a panic, like Paramount Pictures pulled all the advertising.
Well, first what they did was they tried to do research. They went to a research group and said, what can we do to the movie to make the movie less violent or to like have it be less of a gang message? And the research company came back like, nothing. I mean, it's bare bones, it's cut, there's nothing you can really do. So then what they did was they pulled all the advertising.
Yeah, they kind of came up with this thing that it was the advertising, the poster, that like iconic poster that you'll see on our website, I'm sure, when is like, you know, hundreds of gang members.
Yeah, all the different gangs, all
and
with
it
the words in the
says
front.
like, you know, the gang is, I don't know what's the numbers, like 100,000 strong, police.
Yeah,
only
2,000, whatever.
Yeah,
So they quickly changed the poster. They pulled that poster back. They put like a poster with a white background in it. And the movie was making good money. I mean, it made $3 million in its first weekend. It only cost between $6 and $7 million to make. Eventually, it ended up pulling in $22.4 million, but that was with no advertising. And then finally, the movie was pulled from the theaters because because there was such an outcry about what was going on. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there is because there's so many freaking movies out there, but I can't think of readily another example of a movie that was actually pulled from the theaters because of either outrage or and that it was so popular because of word of mouth. And then, what really ended up happening, which was kind of, I guess, one would think that people would realize this, was just gangs were going to the theater and then they would see their rival gangs there. And of course that would spark some sort of brawl. And that's why people were getting hurt or killed. And they were getting pumped up by going to see it, and they loved it. It was a real phenomenon for them. And it ended up turning into one of those things where I think into the 80s and 90s, street gangs looked at this movie like Italians looked at The Godfather. Even though The Godfather is really fictional, but it has moments of truth and explains everything, Italians adopted it. So now it's just like, that's one of like the best mob movie of all time is The Godfather, And this is what happened with The Warriors. It became like the best gang movie of all time until maybe the 90s with Menace to Society or whatever.
Now, going back to like the archetypes and of like the, the different gangs and stuff, there is something that I can understand that it's that aspect of it. I can understand being, especially if you watched it today, being thought of as being kind of cheesy, and it's something that I think works in a weird way when you put it in the context of like, this is the future.
Yeah.
The problem is because then you can be like, okay, it's some like, and also like we're coming off of things like Mad Max. And then, so like you said, shortly after we have, like the next year, we have like Escape from New York, and then we have like a whole slew of like Italian,
post-apocalyptic,
like rip-offs of Mad Max and Escape from New York, and Bronx Warrior and stuff. And then those start to look very much like Warriors in a lot of ways.
Well, it seemed like it was a believable kind of a future. It wasn't a future where when I think of, like in the 2005 the re-release, they really talk about Walter Hill's like, this is supposed to be set in the near future, blah blah. So I immediately think of like Blade Runner, near future, or sci-fi or whatever. But no, it's a near future where there's just like, it's like the Escape from New York near future, where there's just such freaking chaos and RoboCop-ish kind of like shit going on that there are gangs that just terrorize cities.
But the problem is, it's so late 70s New York.
Yeah.
That there's no way you can, there's no way that you're going to make that leap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is without an introduction. And even when that introduction is made, it's like,
you're saying that is future. Yeah.
There's like there's no like technology.
Yeah, there's nothing.
It's just so New York of like 1979 that there's no way you could think that it could be any other time.
Yeah, I think
and it's what's beautiful about it. I mean, it's what's amazing when you watch it. I mean, I would imagine, and we talk about this in the Weekend at Bernie's, about how like we wonder how New York jokes play for people that have never been to New York or don't know New York. So as someone that lives, in Hell's Kitchen,
currently,
like it is amazing to watch these movies.
Well, especially
that's what it looks. That was what it looked like.
Especially now, where it's been so gentrified, and it's just been so like just painted over. Times Square is now like Disneyland. Well, it's starting to revert back, which we've all talked about. But it's like it's leaps and bounds, completely different from that world, and it's so weird to think that this was not only plausible back then, but these different gangs were scary looking, and I mean, some of them still are, in my opinion. But some of the ones that are out there, like we said, like the hi-hats or the boppers who are dressed up as like 50s doo-wop bands, But you take maybe a handful away. There's about 100 names or whatever they came up with, and they're still pretty scary looking. I mean, on the forefront, in my personal opinion, is the Baseball Furies. They're freaky as all hell looking.
They are very freaky,
I mean, they're very comic book
scary, and that's the other thing. I mean, we should. Okay, there's so much to talk
well,
about.
One last thing before we jump into it.
We have to find an order.
Yeah, I know. We're just going left and right. The last thing I'll say about the marketing was that they had people coming out like critics saying, you risk your life if you go see this movie, and New York City was so paranoid that they had either the teaser trailer or the straight trailer. They had them actually take the sound was on mag tape. So instead of editing out the words, they just kind of bleeped them out. What they would do is they just put a piece of tape over it, so then that the mag head wouldn't read the sound, so it just looked like it was mute. And they had them take out all the stats, because the New York City Police Department didn't want them to actually know that there's only, say, 2,000 or 5,000 cops versus 22,000. They were really worried that, wait a minute, these are stats we don't want to get out because we don't want people to get ideas in their head. Because, again, coming into the 70s, you had these uproars where cops couldn't go above 110th Street without being assassinated. You had, the Black Liberation Army, BLA, actually, trying to do shit like this. Cops were being taught if New York was taken hostage, certain elite groups, which is kind of alluded to in Nighthawks, cops were pulled to the side and showed how to blow up bridges, how to blow up elevators, so that if this ever kind of happened, you had some crazy gang that actually had the idea to do what Cyrus did in this movie. They'd have safeguards to try to get the city back. So you had a lot going on there, and they were so scared. So yes, we have to jump into this.
So let's okay. So you set up. It was a little. You just teased. You tickled my balls a little bit.
Yeah.
So with that,
there you go. Gotta keep it clean.
So we just explained. So let's briefly explain, like, as a refresher, or for somebody that's listening to this that hasn't watched it. So the basic plot is that there's these gangs in New York.
Yeah, each
not
borough.
The gangs of New York.
No,
there's these gangs in New York.
There's gangs in every. I don't know. I wouldn't even say every borough. Every borough has their own, maybe different avenues, couple blocks.
And there's this one gang leader named Cyrus.
Yeah, he's head of the riffs. The what do you call it? Riffs. It's on the tip of my tongue. The Barmacy or Delance. No, shit, crap. Anyway. Gramercy riffs, thank you. And
so he calls this meeting
way up. And
why they do? I don't know.
Well, because it's alluded to more as we go on in the book, but
we'll get to the book.
Yeah, he calls this big meeting together because he's got this brilliant idea, which is actually a really good idea. It's really just he's the most. It's basically what the mob ended up doing after the gangsters of the 20s and 30s. You have like Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky and all those with Murder Incorporated in New York. They realize, hey, let's organize, and that's why you call it organized crime. If we get organized and we don't kill each other for turf, for West Side or East Side gangs, we can rule the city. And then the mob figured this out. What is that? I guess 40 years before or 30 years before. Yeah. So Cyrus calls a big meeting. They're the biggest gang in the city. They don't run everything, but they're legendary. And the leader, Cyrus, he calls a meeting uptown, and all the gangs are invited. And he has rules. Nobody's supposed to bring weapons in the movie.
Not the orphans. They didn't get.
Yeah, I know. Well, and that also goes to show you that how many more gangs are in the city that or the subsidiaries are off the charts, or people don't know about. And you're not supposed to bring weapons, and you're only supposed to have 9 delegates. So we have our gang, the Warriors, who are. If you don't unfamiliar with the city, you have there's Manhattan, then across the water on the east side is Queens, then below that is Brooklyn, and on the bottom of Brooklyn on the shore is Coney Island. And they're from Coney Island, and supposedly they're a gang of 120 members plus affiliates, but their leader picks 9 of the best to go up there, and that was one of Cyrus's stipulations: pick 9 people of your gang, bring them up.
Yeah.
And they're going to have this big meeting.
So they basically travel from the southmost point of New York City, the boroughs,
19 miles up,
to the most northern part of the boroughs of New York City.
Top of the Bronx, right before you hit Westchester County. So it doesn't sound like a lot of space, 19 miles. But to someone, especially back then, who maybe had never left their either Brooklyn or their turf, that's like 50. I think he even says that in the movie. He's like, oh, we're 50, 100 miles away from her, you know. And they go up there, and then it goes wrong. You know, it's all going great. Cyrus has got the crowd, and then you have this one guy from the Rogues, this kind of like psychotic kind of a group. He shoots Cyrus, and they pin it on the Warriors in the melee.
He blames it on the Warriors.
And at the same time, the cops had gotten wind of it, and simultaneously as Cyrus is shot, the cops raid the place. So there's a big panic, pandemonium. Everyone's scattering. Cops are coming down, beating heads with billy clubs, and the one guy, Luther from the Rogue, say, "Hey, the Warriors did it," and then that sets the tone of the movie motion going. That not only did they got to get back to Coney, they have to now bop their way because every gang in the city is now looking for them and know that they did it, which is under false pretenses.
And I think we talked about Cyrus's plan. I mean, he's not just talking about organized crime. I mean, he's talking about like they will own New York City.
Yeah, they'll take everything over. They'll take.
They will completely.
You know,
like the cops will be helpless. They'll basically just run the entire city.
And it's a brilliant plan. I mean, it's like a dictatorship, and and I don't know. And there's never any rhyme or reason given to why he's assassinated. It's just like he just did it because the guy Luther, David Patrick Kelly, who we'll talk about, did it because he likes doing things like that.
And so then it's about this gang trying to make their way back home.
A very naive gang, I would say. As tough as they are, they hide their naivete with toughness and all kinds of violence but they're very they had never left their turf.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of the beauty, if probably not the correct term, but it is one of like the great things of like, you think about these gangs and you think about like,
well, look at now, even in a movie South Central LA.
Yeah,
or
these
even
guys,
a
movie like Bronx Tale. You know, like these, you do have like this whole world, and you might be like hot shit in your world, but you're, in those like it's like you're a small fish in a very small pond, but then when you put, even though you're just miles away from another borough, it's the one thing that I think people that don't live in New York, it's hard to like understand like how there is like this microcosm and that New York might be like the most populated city in America or whatever, but Manhattan is like, it's small. It's a tiny little island.
Yeah, and it's only like a mile wide by I forget how many miles long.
And even though it's so small, it's like we're packed with all these people, and there is like these weird like microcosms, and then you have like these outer boroughs are separated from Manhattan by water.
And I guess if you don't know, there's 5 boroughs. You've got Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan, and the Bronx. Those are the 5 boroughs. And Manhattan's in the middle, surrounded by water. Bronx is north of it. To the east of it is Queens, Brooklyn. To the north of it is the Bronx. And to the southwest is Staten Island there. Yeah. And those are your 5 boroughs.
And so if you're separated...
And to the west is Jersey.
And so if you're separated by water, even though there's public transportation or whatever... Like, it really is like it's a whole nother world.
And especially if you're in a lower economic class where you don't have a car, you don't have access to a car. So that's why you're using mass transportation, like in this movie.
Yeah. And even if you live in Manhattan, even though it's all one place, like, believe me, if you live on the west side, you don't go to the east side.
There's no reason to.
There's, unless there's a very specific, you want to go to a museum.
Yeah. There's no reason. You don't have to go out and get milk and go to the east side. Everything's there for you.
Like, trains don't...
Go
now they're building like the 7 train, which will kind of go east and west in Midtown, but like they don't go east and west. So it's like via public transportation, unless you want to figure out the bus system, which I've been living here for years and I still haven't figured out how to take the bus.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
No,
it's not easy to get from like Midtown West to like the Upper East Side, and then forget like Upper West Side to Upper East Side because it's separated by the park, by Central Park.
Central Park literally is like from 58th or 59th Street all the way up to like 100 and something. So you have this big, beautiful that they carved it out. But a man-made park by another guy who's great to read about, and his name escapes me, who invented the park. Or invented as in case they actually laid it out, mapped it out, and they built it that way so it would be preserved.
But so the point is, like, yes, like the Warriors are hot shit in Coney Island, but anywhere else, they're just another 9 guys.
Yeah, and especially when they get into like the different sections they end up having to fight through. Like you get these gangs who are like completely, I think, out of their league in a sense where they're out of their league. The Warriors are very, low level compared to some of these big gangs like the Turnbull ACs or certainly the Gramercy Riffs, or as we said before, the Baseball Furies. These things are pretty frightening.
So the story is they have to get from the uppermost part of New York City to the lowermost part of New York City. Now, this story comes is one based on a book, which Dion has kind of referred to and mentioned, but that story itself is based on a true story.
Yes, the writer. I read Blake and I. What we try to do for these casts as much as we can with our personal lives, because we do have real jobs on the side. We try to read the novel.
We would love to. We would love nothing more.
Yeah. So if you want to sponsor this and make this our primary
eliminate
job,
the Saturday and Saturday night movie sleepovers, and just make it movie sleepovers.
Yeah, nightly movie sleepovers. We try to read the novelizations for books mostly, and this book wasn't a novelization. This predated the book by about this came out in 65 and this movie came out in 79, so you have a while, and you have some cultural differences that they had to update to make the movie. But at the time this came out by game, so I ended up reading the book that it's based on because I think it's such a good movie. It held such a place in my heart. Why don't I give the book a try? The book came out in 1965 by a Jewish author named Sol Yurick, and he had worked in the welfare department in the 50s and had seen the gangs and all this kind of thing that was happening in the 50s, and he kind of got mad at the romanticism that you saw Hollywood do with movies like West Side Story, Rebel Without a Cause, Blackboard Jungle, where they try to romanticize the gangs. And he was there, and he's like, that's not at all how it really is. There's poverty, there's neglect, there's all kinds of stuff. And he was as Blake is alluding to, he was a student of history, and he was a very big fan of a book called the Anabasis, which is about a guy named Xenophon, general, and it's a true story where this general Xenophon.
No, Xenophon is actually the Greek historian who relayed the story.
Okay, I thought he was the general.
The general is actually named Cyrus. Cyrus the
Young.
Cyrus the Younger is actually the general, and it's a Greek. It's an army of 10,000 Greek warriors. They go up to Persia,
into the old Persian Empire, and
in 401 BC.
Yeah, so they just had the battle of Connexa, maybe?
We're not
Connexa. Yeah, we don't know how to say this. It was right after the battle of the Athens versus Sparta, and they go into the old Persian Empire. They have this big battle. I don't know if they neither win nor lose, but they realize they're stranded in the middle of foreign territory.
Yeah. Well, what happens is I think, if I recall correctly, they actually win the battle, but Cyrus is killed. Their leader is killed.
Cyrus the Younger.
Yeah. So then it's a story about these Greek warriors trying to get back to Greece,
the sea,
their home turf.
Yeah,
get back to the sea, and along the way having to fight all these Persian tribes.
Yeah. So it's basically, if you haven't put the pieces together yet, this is what
you take out the subway.
Yeah, you add in some sandals, and maybe a horse-drawn cart with a donkey.
And so this apparently was a true story
in 401
and
BC.
It was relayed by a Greek historian named Xenophon.
Yeah.
So Sol Yurick takes the story and kind of transposes it over New York
in 1965, and. From reading the novel, which I guess I can get back to, it is very different because it's much more realistic. We can get into a little bit the specifics later, but initially it is very much in the vein like The Outsiders. It's very emphasized that these are adolescents. They're very ignorant, and then it's them trying to deal with the world around them. But also, it's very violent. It's very graphic. It's very there's a lot of violence. There's rape in it. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on in this book, and it's very good. So if you guys are fans of the Warriors, I wholeheartedly suggest you read it.
Does the book take place in the future?
No, it takes place in 65, just at the time, and Cyrus is now a guy named Ishmael Riviera. And he was also fan, Sol Yurick, of Melville, Home Moby Dick. Yeah. So he names the guy Ishmael Riviera. And then, when they go make the movie, they turn that into Cyrus. And he's a guy that's never really explained. He wears glasses. He's never talked about. They describe him, but you never get his inner thoughts until he has the meeting. He brings everybody uptown. He tells them, you can bring one gun as a peace offering, but no other weapons. They're signaled by a Beatles song on the radio. They go up there, and he holds court in Van Cortlandt Park, and he starts yelling, and he's in his head, he's saying he has to be this big orator, wail his arms around. He has to get their attention because he knows that, they're young, they have short attention spans. And he has his group of guys who are in white pants, ice cream, like white pants, so you can distinguish them. They relay like telephone what he's saying, because you can't just yell out for 10,000 whatever people to hear you. And then what happens is everything is great, but then like anything, it almost goes back to like Lord of the Flies. These young gangs, you can't hold them disciplined forever. Yeah. So they start, one gang starts fucking with another gang, and then before you know it, everybody starts fighting. And then shooting starts going off, and Cyrus is, or I guess in this one, Ishmael is shot and killed. He's shot twice, one in the eye and one in the chest. And then at the same time, the cops raid it. And the last thing I'll say before we get back to the movie, to get away from the book, is the warriors just get away and they run in the hide in Woodlawn Cemetery. It's never mentioned that they killed Cyrus. That's a device a very clever device that they brought into the movie to add a level of intrigue and like adventure and I guess almost suspense.
Yeah.
So they end up and much like any good movie does, it follows the beats of the book. It's much different. All the characters' names are different, which we can get into, but it does follow the beats loosely of what happens in the book.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you see a movie that you just saw on Saturday afternoon have all this backstory you never even knew about.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, let's talk about Walter Hill. Freaking awesome.
Walter Hill
is the man.
Walter Hill worked as a second assistant director,
unaccredited a lot of times
on a lot of really good shit.
A lot of McQueen related stuff.
Yeah.
He did Bullet. He did I think the Thomas Crown Affair, and then he came out as a writer
as a second
unit unaccredited
and then
second
he
director.
wrote The Getaway.
He wrote the Jim Thompson wrote the original novel. He adapted the screenplay for The Getaway, and then he wrote a lot of good screenplays.
Well, he wanted to get into directing, and he was told that he could get into directing as through being a writer.
Yeah.
So he started
writing. Which is what we've been trying to do for the past 10 years.
So he started writing, and he's written a lot of stuff, and but then he in the early 70s he got his directorial debut.
Yeah, so I think it's Hard Times, the Charles Bronson movie, which didn't do too well.
He directed The Driver,
which is a phenomenal movie with Bruce Dern and Tatum O'Neal's father. What's his name? Something O'Neal. I never remember his name. Anyway, great movie.
And then his third movie is Warriors.
Yeah.
Now, judging from this director's cut that we've alluded to,
that finally got re-released in 2005. That he did kind of a poor man's what do you call it? Lucas on it.
Yeah.
He kind of Lucified it. Lucasified it, if they can make that a word.
He's clearly as much as
Ryan O'Neal.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
Of course.
Yeah. And if you guys have never heard of The Driver and you like all those Fast and Furious movies, Jesus Christ, you got to go see The Driver. Because in the movie, the guy's name is Driver, and the other guy, Bruce Dern's after him, called Cop. Driver never smiles, and it's like fucking awesome. But I digress.
This is a little shout out to The Driver. So he's making a movie based on this book. But Walter Hill, who, so Warriors, he's probably best known for the 48 Hours movies.
Yeah, he did 48 Hours. He did Brewster's Millions. He's done Red Heat, Johnny Handsome, another 48 Hours. Did a favorite of mine, Trespass. Yeah. He did Last Man Standing,
which is one that kind of it's a movie that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I know, which is another Yojimbo kind of regurgitation from Kurosawa, because he's a big Kurosawa fan, and that's his third collaboration with David Patrick Kelly, because he's in 48 Hours and
in case you don't know, Yojimbo or Yojimbo, Fistful of Dollars is the popular. It's like the more popular
Eastwood retelling of it.
Yeah, and so it's very much in that story. So, but
that's directed. That's only directing.
Yeah.
Now writing and producing, he's done a crap load of stuff.
Yeah, he produced like Alien or something.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons he helped produce Alien, and at the time he was with Ridley Scott, and they screened a movie called Madman that was shot in Israel because a young Sigourney Weaver was in it, and they were looking to see if she was right for the part in Alien. And also in it was Michael Beck, who turns out to play Swan in our movie, the head of after Cleon, the head of the Warriors, gets killed at the melee. Swan becomes war chief, which is like the head of the Warriors. They figured out in Van Cortlandt Park. And he saw him in that movie Madman, and he called him and said, "You'll be good for the Warriors." And that's how they cast him. And he did that. He came up with the story for Aliens. He wrote a whole slew of stuff. I mean, we said The Getaway. We said Hard Times. He did The Long Riders, which is a great Western. He did the story for Aliens. He wrote Red Heat. He wrote Another 40 Hours. He did the screenplay for Aliens 3. He did the screenplay for the remake of The Getaway with Alec Baldwin, Kim Basinger. He did the screenplay for Last Standing. He directed and wrote that movie Undisputed, which was that boxing movie with in prison with Ving Rhames and and what's his face from the Blade movies.
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes. And then he producing. He's done. Then again, it's like, you know, we talk about again. He produced The Warriors, produced Alien. He produced Aliens. He produced Red Heat. He produced Aliens 3. He produced Geronimo, an American Legend. He did a bunch of Tales from the Crypt movies. He produced Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
Classic.
I know. Last Man Standing, Bordello of Blood.
Another classic. Dennis Miller.
I know you love Alien Resurrection. He produced, again, The Undisputed. He did a couple episodes of Deadwood. He did AVP, Alien vs. Predator. Broken Trail from a couple years ago with Robert Duvall. Alien vs. Predator Requiem. And then he most recently produced Prometheus, and he's producing Prometheus 2.
Yeah,
so he's all over the place in the weirdest places.
Yeah.
You know?
But so he's a guy that knows his shit.
He knows his shit pretty good.
And so as much as this movie's based on this novel by Sol Yurick, you can tell that Walter Hill really kind of is more interested through the director's cut than anything else, is very much more interested in this Greek story. One, he renames Ishmael to Cyrus.
Yeah.
Cleon is a Greek name. He starts throwing
As is Ajax.
Ajax is a Greek name. He starts throwing in like these little nods to the original
And,
Greek story. And in the director's cut, if I recall correctly,
They put in a new.
it opens with like a scroll that kind of describes the
and a little animation of the Greek Anabasis. Anabasis. I can never pronounce it right.
Anabasis.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Anabasis. And I guess two last things too that he changed in the book was, which I think they should have kept. The book takes place on July 4th. So there's fireworks going off. It's the American celebration of their independence.
Yeah.
And as well as the name of the book is The Warriors. Okay. So that's supposed to be the name of the gangs. These are warriors.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
actually, the name of the Warriors gang in the book is the Coney Island Dominators.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
they're not the Warriors. So they refer to as the Warriors throughout the book, but their name are the Coney Island Dominators, which I don't think that comes up in the movie. Like the name Dominators, I mean, they're clearly the Warriors, but I don't think they named any other gang to that. So he changes it enough, but he keeps it to a certain extent pretty faithful.
Yeah.
You have to update, because now when you're in the mid 60s and you're making a book about late 50s, early 60s gangs, you're talking like freaking Leader of the Pack and like Leather, Ken Anger, kind of like freaking biker jackets and a lot of like switchblades.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of update it for the time. So you see why he did some stuff and he did different things.
As a movie itself, I mean, some of the things I've had people. I was just talking to a friend of mine last night, telling him that we were going to do this movie today. And he's like, "There's something about it that just kind of reminds me of like West Side Story, even though it's not a musical." And one of the things is, and I guess because it was shot in New York City, like the easiest way to get like a shitload of people was they just hired like Broadway dancers to play all the gang members.
I have a friend of mine that I work with who's a E&G, one of the field camera guys, and he lived on the Upper West Side growing up. And he said, like we alluded to, they shot the opening conclave scene on Riverside Drive at the park there, Riverside Park. And he remembers he lived in that neighborhood that they were looking for extras, and he didn't do it, but that's what casting call for extras. And, they had like 10,000 people there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna where I was gonna kind of go is that okay, so that's one of the things is like, okay, so this is a bunch of like like dancers playing these guys. So that a lot of times the gangs don't, in a lot of cases, don't look all that tough. But as a movie that clearly, I think you would think of this movie as being pretty low budget, it's pretty amazing that they get that many people organized in the park. I I mean, when you watch it and then the cops come, it's impressive. It's like a huge spectacle.
And the AD talks about how he just did it. He's like, how am I going to get it to look like a riot without people actually getting hurt? Because they're all non-actors. They don't know what to do. So he just said, like, he took the first 50 people and he had them run in a circle. Took the next 100 people, put them around them, had them run in a semicircle. Then he had the next 100 people, had them run left to right, and he had the people before that run right to left. So from a long shot, it looks like a melee.
Yeah,
but
it's like organized chaos.
Yeah, so everybody's just, you're running this way. So all they really had to do was just follow the person in front of them as opposed to hit beats or hit, marks and stuff.
No, I think we talked about with the cast, I mean the different gangs and stuff, adding this like air of cheesiness. You said you had a friend that just like couldn't get into it. I think this movie personally is like shockingly well made.
Yeah.
You take the opening sequence as just like a study of like filmmaking.
Oh, I know. You mean from the opening, just the opening credits?
Yeah, it's such like a beautiful like display of like editing, of like the juxtaposing of the picking of the delegates that are going to go to the meeting, and then the talking with them on the train.
Yeah,
the
camaraderie.
The way it's like all intercut,
as well as they're dropping knowledge on people who don't know, where they're intercutting them on the subway, as well as showing the subway map.
Yeah.
So you see the one guy Rembrandt looking at the map, and then we get to see the journey they're going because the camera's panning up. So if someone who's not from New York has an idea, they're going all the way up here, and then you have these like really weird like vignettes that are non-related of just like the gangs, the people talking to each other, like what's going to happen up there? I don't know. They say he's the man.
It is such a beautiful piece of filmmaking.
Yeah, and then as well as they put a camera on the head end of a subway train, and that's also being cut by you. It's like you're first person of you going through the subways, and it's lit beautifully. And there's a weird. I know they had limitations of their lighting, but there's a weird like industrial blue kind of look through the movie, because of that, that look of fluorescent lights and stuff, and it's just it's beautiful, It's so well done. And originally they had another opening to the movie. They had an opening that they did where Cleon, the head of the Warriors, talks to his girlfriend during the day on a park bench at the beginning on the boardwalk in Coney Island. And then she's like, don't go. And he's like, I have to go, bitch, or whatever. And then
whatever Cleon would say.
Yeah. And he goes and he says, these are the Warriors I'm picking. And the movie starts. And they decided against it and reshot what we're talking about now, is because they thought since the whole movie takes place at night, it'll be a better impact if we have the only scene that takes place at the day at the end of the movie, which I think was a brilliant idea because it really gets you into it.
Yeah, it really is like campiness of like whatever of the gang costumes.
Oh, that's another aspect too. You see during the montage other gangs coming, so you get an idea of you see the boppers, you see the riffs, you see the turbo HCs, you see the Lizzies, you see the baseball furies getting their bats. It's so great,
Yeah, so I mean, all that aside, and like still like the restriction of budget and whatnot, there are some really genuinely beautiful moments in the movie.
Yeah,
I think like excuse me, get all choked up here.
It's okay, man. Here's some tissues.
Especially on like the acting side, even though a lot of the acting isn't great, there are some great moments.
Well, I think that guy Michael Beck who plays Swan is really good in it. I've always said when I was really little, not really little, but when I was in my teens, I think if they ever made like a Doors movie at the time, he would have a perfect Jim Morrison. He looked so like that look. But I think
he's great. Unfortunately, like he went on like the next movie was like Xanadu or something. He just like, unfortunately, like his career just never.
Yeah, he
like
never
this
hit that
movie was
pinnacle.
like supposed to like make him a star, and then it just had there were some bad choices or something along the way that just kind of stunted his growth in terms of career. The guy that plays Ajax is like
James Remar.
He's in tons of stuff.
Yeah, and women know him from Sex and the City. He had a big part in Sex and the City, and he was in Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. He's the one with the gargoyle.
Yeah.
He's absolutely great in that movie. You have a cameo by Mercedes Ruehl. That's her first movie. She's a cop.
I think it's Ajax's first screen part.
The woman Deborah Van Valkenburg, who plays Mercy, the girl they pick up by the orphans, it's her first movie too. She's been in some stuff here and there.
She was in Too Close for Comfort.
Is
that the name of the show with the?
Yeah, with Ted Knight.
Yeah. She was like Ted Knight had two daughters. Talk about what a weird show. He plays like a cartoonist who has this cartoon where the character is a cow. Okay. And then do you not remember this show?
I never. It was one of those I never watched.
And then when he would draw the cartoon,
he
had a puppet of the cow, and he would draw the cartoon, the comic, with the like a clown puppet hand. And then he had two daughters in the show. One that was like blue-eyed blonde, and then this one who was like dark-haired, like a little salt and pepper action. And then Jim J. Bullock was like their neighbor.
Were they birthed by them, or were they adopted?
No, I think they were supposed to be their daughters.
One's an Aryan and one's like a Puerto Rican.
So she's one of the daughters.
That's weird.
Anyway,
we have
check it out. It's on like Antenna or one of those channels.
Yeah, I know. That's how I've been starting to watch it again now. And I was like, I forgot about this show. You have Marcelino Sanchez, who people our age will remember from the Bloodhound Gang on 3-2-1 Contact. He's Rembrandt in the movie. These bitches are packing. He's been in a lot of stuff, and he passed away in 1986. He died, but I think he plays a great role in it. I don't know if the undertone or they're supposed to hint that he's gay. Because remember the lizards are trying to you want to party? And he's like, get away from me, bitch.
But he's also like the young, naive one.
Yeah, it's the same thing where it's like in the book, they have all different names. In the book you have Papa Arnold. The book very much keeps the feel that they are a family, and they're referred to as the family. You don't disrespect the family. And the leader of the gang is Arnold the father, and then you have Hector, who's the second in command, which is our swan. You have Lungface, who's like very strong, very dangerous, very big. He almost is described as like the Thing from Fantastic Four. He's very stupid too, and I think that's like our Ajax. You have Bimbo, which is the advisor, so he's maybe another person. You have Hilton, who is the central character in the book, which I think is supposed to be in this movie Fox, which we can get to what happened with Fox, who played by Thomas Waits, who's actually unbilled in this movie, who goes on to do The Thing and some other stuff.
He plays Windows in John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, and he's in Justice for All and all that. And lastly, you have Dewey, another member of the gang, and then you have the Junior, he's called. He's the youngest of the group, and he's the group's mascot. And he's the most naive one. He's the one that is relegated to do the spray painting like Rembrandt. And it's to bring up, like I say, the childhood innocence in this gang, where when they're in Woodlawn Park or the Woodlawn Cemetery, they're scared, but it's their best hid place. He's like, we got to get out of here because it's almost midnight, and the dead will come out at midnight. And as stupid as that sounds, they don't necessarily disagree with him. Yeah. So they're like, okay, maybe we should get out of here. It is a little too freaky for us. So it does reinforce the adolescent, naivete aspect of all them. But a lot of great cast in the movie, as well as my main man, David Patrick Elliott, who I think is phenomenal and is probably one of the most underrated actors. I mean, I think he got pigeonholed for very good reasons, and I guess for him, maybe he doesn't think it's the best for careers. But this was his first role. He was in a Broadway play called Working that they'd seen, and he played like a hippie in that was like supposed to be a hippie, but then he really wasn't. He was doing violent things. And they cast him, and I think they said it's kind of like a Richard III kind of a part, and I think he's just brilliant in this movie.
He is great in this. I mean, he's a very intense actor,
and he uses his attributes very effectively. He has a very high. He almost has like a Cobra Commander-esque kind of a voice, so he can use that whining very well, like in Dreamscape or he's in Commando. Sally, you're a funny guy, Sally. That's why I kill you last. He shows up in 48 Hours. He plays Luther again. There's a Dominican Republic parade going by my house, so that's why if you hear any of this bass, it's not like we're in a big old club. You may hear it, you may not, but that's what's happening outside.
Middle of the night.
It's
an early morning.
And it's kind of fitting too because we're talking about the gangs.
It's an early Sunday morning.
It's kind of
parade going by.
The ethnicities, and he is great in the movie, and I find it really interesting. I mean, to get in the nuts and bolts, who do you think he's talking to? He has 2 phone conversations where he calls somebody, and he's very respectful to that person. And I think he's getting information, but I'm always curious to see who he's talking to. He's very like subdued. He's very nice. He doesn't treat that person like he treats the gang. So, and he's getting updates of what's happening as well. But I'm always so curious, like they kept it in, but you don't know why. Who the heck is he talking to? Because then he's mean to that candy store lady, and she's like, who's gonna pay for what you owe? And he's like, for what? And he throws the stuff at her, and it's so good.
Yeah, he is great. He adds like this air of
like menace or
definitely that, but like
psychotic.
also like I can't think of the word, but like I can't think of it. But he has like this, seriousness to it. Like like his performance kind of takes. It's one of the things. It's one of those moments in the film that takes it away from being like this
genre, like
this
B picture.
Yeah, like this genre B picture with like guys dressed up like mimes as a
Yeah,
and adds like a little bit of I can't believe the words escaping me, but adds like gives it some substance, like some seriousness. He's so intense and he's so serious.
And he says that half of the 32 films he went on to do he was cast because of this movie. And then when the movie came out, his mother saw it and she said, "You almost seem tough in it." to
but
him.
There's something great about it that he doesn't seem tough in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, he comes off like that Richard III, where he's tough when he needs to be, but he's at the end of the day, he's just
he's not tough. He's like crazy.
He's almost like Scorpio from Dirty
exactly.
Harry.
He would have been awesome.
Can you imagine
as great as the
Andy
guy,
Robinson?
As great as Andy Robinson is.
Imagine him 10 years earlier.
And I'm not even saying David Patrick Kelly would do a better job, but it would be a really awesome performance.
And I'm going to patent this right now. If anyone ever remakes The Warriors, which 10 years ago I heard it was in the works with Tony Scott, who just sadly passed away. They were going to take place in L.A. I think that's been kiboshed because of course Tony Scott passed on, but I haven't heard anything else about it. If they ever remake it, I think Robin Lord Taylor, who plays the Penguin on Gotham, would be a great Luther nowadays.
He would be great.
Whiny and all that kind of, and you got to go see David Patrick Kelly stuff. I mean, he's great in Dreamscape. He's great in Commando. He's got some really good, he's good.
Do you recall what our dream David Patrick Kelly
Cobra Commander?
Well,
G.I. Joe.
That we were going to be
was our casting.
And our casting of G.I. Joe, which we talk about in our G.I. Joe
the movie cast, the cartoon.
Check that out.
Yeah.
But do you remember what our other dream casting was?
No. What was David Patrick Kelly?
It was a biopic.
No.
Houdini.
Oh, he would make an awesome Houdini. You're right.
We always said we wanted
to
make a Houdini.
He's that short. I thought it was Harvey Keitel at the time, who actually went on to play Houdini in that fairy tale movie. Yeah, he'd be a great.
He's got those blue eyes, and he's kind of got like that
the nose
like
and
his
hair.
Similar face.
Yeah, if you just kind of like fuzz his hair out a little bit and get him like a little sinewy, jacked up. He'd be great.
But so great performances. That performance is great. Some of my other favorite moments in the movie are Ajax and the Mercedes Rule scene.
Yeah, well, they say that's how he got the part. He went into the audition. He read for that scene. And he said he was in front of a big conference table. It was like a couple 100 pounds. So he acted like he handcuffed himself. Or maybe he even brought handcuffs. And during the reading, the sides for the audition, he actually grabbed the coffee table like it was the park bench and lifted the coffee table. Stunned the
but not
people
even,
so much.
Aside from that, he's trying to pick up this girl. Aside that he's gonna basically like rape her.
Well, that's another thing that happens in this in the book. They do that. They take the Mercy character, the Spanish girl they get from the orphans. They take her along. The next scene, they get a switchblade off a guy they got from. It's not the orphans. It's the Blazers, and they stab a random guy to death. She's cheering him on, and then they all gang rape her and leave her there. And it's like to give you an interesting part of the book, the psychosis of this book. There is a scene where Lungface, who I think is supposed to be Ajax, they're waiting under 233rd for they call their youth board advisor up, pick them up because it was part of the speech in Cyrus that was cut out of the Cyrus speech, but it's referred to when they're talking to the orphans. They of course have never heard of the orphans, and they say, "Oh, my youth board guy always talks about you. I've heard about you." And the orphans are like, "Oh, really? That's really cool." So they're waiting in the shadows of 233rd for their youth board guy to come up all the way from Coney. And they're getting bored. And Lungface, they're all, because they're kids, they're just getting antsy. They're fucking around. And the leader, Hector, keeps telling them to shut the hell up, stay in the shadows. So Lungface is getting agitated, and he sees like a couple walk by. And he's like, he walks up like, why don't we just go take that girl? And he says like, they're around the corner. All we have to do is Indian up and jab them quick and take those take that cunt. And then he goes, we owe it to them chicks to show them how men operate, don't we? And Hector goes... He says, no, and then he says, quote, Hector told Lungface to make the girl out of his hand and to cool his warrior in the dark waiting place. the lunk face did what Hector said, but it was so hot he didn't like it much. So it's like that's where the I guess the psyche of the book is. It's dark. It's weird.
But
so
I think in the case of in this scene in the movie, though, what I love so much about it is that even though like these guys are all, I guess, playing younger than they are.
Yeah.
Like you see that whole scene, you see like how like naive Ajax really is. He wants to go. This lady Swan's like, you really are like dumb, aren't you? And he's like, I'm not dumb. Like it's very.
Oh, when he challenges them, almost he's like, who? Even at the beginning, that establishes the character where he's like, who made you war chief? And they don't even. He's like, we're leaving. Yeah. He leaves him there.
But then he's like, well, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get some action. So he goes, and then like you just see like his, you could see it as violent, but the way it kind of reads to me is that like the way he kind of like attacks Mercedes Rule's character is that like he doesn't really know what to do with the woman. Like this is what he thinks, like making out, just like going for her tits and like being kind of rough. Like it seems less.
That's what they want.
Less
they want
like
assault.
Less like that he's being violent for any kind of like violent purpose. More that like he doesn't. Maybe he's never even really been with a girl before. Yeah. And then when it turns out that she's, spoiler alert, a police officer, and she handcuffs him to the thing, and he's like swinging at her, and he's trying to be this tough guy. And the cop comes, and he.
Erwin Keyes is the cop who almost got cast in his part, but they thought he was too old.
Yeah,
I think that would have went more towards his lunk face casting.
Yeah, definitely a big
like,
guy.
You know him if you saw him.
Yeah,
weird
he's
kind of a
face. In a ton of stuff. I was just watching. What's that Coen Brothers?
Almost
movie?
looks like Rondo Hatton.
He does. He has like a Rondo.
So we can get it. That's a. If you know that reference,
so
good
he
for
comes
you.
And he beats up Ajax a little bit, and then Ajax looks up. He's got like blood in his mouth, and he's like in tears almost.
Yeah, and he calls him a wimp.
Or like a coward or something like that.
And that's the end of the Ajax character. He gets caught, and people got pissed off. People got really mad after the screening, saying, "Why would you do that to Ajax?"
Yeah. But I think it's such a beautiful moment because you take this guy. I think it's just like it's very telling. I think it's more telling about that scene is more telling about that character than almost any other scene in the entire movie is telling about any of the other characters.
Well, I think for me, there's the scene after they've gotten away and they're on the subway and they're getting to Coney and the teenagers come out from prom night.
Yeah. That's another scene that I would definitely bring up. But what I was going to say is that this scene shows that like when push comes to shove, like he is just like this young naive guy. He's not that tough.
Yeah.
And that like if he was really tough, he'd be like, fuck you, pig, or whatever like that. Instead, he's like. He's been hit, and he's like almost cries over it.
He's like, you pussy. He can't do anything, so it's like almost he's so rage, No,
you could read it that way. To me, it's just like he's never really been hit before. You know what I mean? Like he's just like this kid who's playing grown up in a lot of ways. And like now that he's in like a real situation, he's kind of like broken down, and he realizes like that. Fucking shit's bigger than Coney Island.
He's got one of my favorite lines in the movie too. At the beginning, when the guy's like, "Oh, maybe we'll be able to get some tail or whatever," and the guy's like, "Let's not worry about that." And he's like, "You going faggot?" He says he throws that around a lot.
It's not so PC. That F bomb gets thrown around a couple times. But yeah, the scene you're referring to, go for it because that is the other.
Well,
that's like the real.
I really like
scene.
Yeah, where at the end of the movie, where they've been really mean to the Mercy character, the woman, for the right reasons, because she kind of
she's like the Walter Hill. Women in Walter Hill movies don't normally fare very well in terms they're very manipulative or they're whores.
But I mean, but it's
promiscuous.
It's out of for this particular character. I'm not calling women all this, but for her character, it's kind of a little truth behind it. That's how she's been treated all her life. Remember in the subway, she's like, "Take me now, forcefully." And remember, he was like, "You probably don't remember who you've had a Friday or Saturday night." She's like, "Well, I see the other women older than me who've got 5 kids and a big belly. I'm living for now, so I want to live it now while I still have a life because I'm not going to have a life when I'm that age." And she likes him, but then when she throws herself at him, he pushes away, and I think she's never had that before, so that draws.
Well, it's that
dichotomy.
They kiss a little bit in the subway tunnel. He pulls away, and he's like, "All right, let's go." And she's like, "No," and she's like, "Really? Like, come on,
yeah, please."
Her, like that's what like the attention. She like craves that attention.
Yeah,
in a very like innocent.
That's how she gets her love
way. That's love to her, and she like needs that kind of male attention.
And
when he doesn't give it to her, she's very she doesn't really know what to do about it, and she feels like very rejected in a way that
she probably never had.
I guess what I'm saying is like a lot of this, even though the actors are older and they seem older, and people in general, when you watch movies from the 70s, feel older than people now, even though they might not be.
That's with life, I think.
A lot of that, like that adolescent, like innocence that you're talking about in the book. I think
really,
these are the moments. These
are
the moments that they come out really strong in the movie.
Yeah, and then at the end when they've busted everybody and they're on the last subway back to Coney, this high school prom kids come on and they've had a good night, and then they realize sitting across them on the subway is the Warriors, particularly Swan and her.
Yeah,
and they look at them and they look at how dirty they've been from the night.
They're all dirty because they're running through the subway tunnel.
She's in flip flops. Their hands their nails are black. There's dirt under them, and
these people are in
70s prom, circa Carrie, John Travolta,
they're all done
tuxedos.
Up.
So they kind of get scared and they look at her, and she subconsciously looks at the girl who's dressed up as a prom and starts to maybe fix her hair a little bit because it's in her face. And Swan, which I think is it's such a caring thing, he takes her hand and puts it down, you don't need to try to make yourself look better. Who are these people? You're fine as you are. And then, which I find like a little coda to that scene, is she she closes her eyes, they get up and leave, and the corsage drops, and then she kind of opens her eyes again, and they're gone. So it's almost like it was a dream, It's and because her POV of them now they're not in the scene across.
It's a beautiful it's the only time you really see anybody that's not a gang in the movie or a cop.
Yeah.
It's the only time you see that there are other people that live in New York.
And it's it's another thing in the book, they call the people that aren't gangs or cops the others. And it's very funny because when they get onto the subways in the book, and I guess in the movie too, are supposed to be neutral territory. You have to get around town, so subways are neutral territory. But I guess they've never been around people, so when they get on the subway in the book at 233rd and start going down, they're horrified by the people. There's drunks, there's scary people, there's guys reading newspapers, there's people pissing, and they're afraid of the others. It's like a horror show, and there's too many people, and they're getting pushed around and all that. And then finally when the fire starts and the subway stops and they have to get off, and that gets an example of why they have to get off the subway, not ride home to Coney in the book, they're almost, they don't want to have to go back and deal because the subway offers bus transportation to the next stop because of the fire, and they're like, we don't want to take the bus, man. Those people are too scary, the others. And that again goes to the innocence. They can't deal with,
outside their bubble.
Yeah, their regular society.
The world is scary.
Yeah. Even to a gang who, they goes on to kill a random person, then rape, rape the Mercy character and leave her there. In the book. And she's fine. Yeah, and she's
And so in this instance, we see this scene, no dialogue exchanged, all done in visuals.
This is the end with the prom.
With the prom. Yeah. We see this juxtaposition of their life, their lifestyle, with clearly unlike a more upper class, like a warrior, they probably didn't even have prom. They wouldn't have gone to prom.
No, they don't even know. I'm sure they're not even high school anymore. They probably dropped out years before.
So they see it's this little juxtaposition of these two worlds. And then as much as what's her name, Mercy?
Yeah, Mercy, the character.
As much as the Mercy character talks about the toughness and the men and all this stuff, and how she doesn't want that typical life. This is that moment where she sees this other, what her kind of like the life she wishes, like you said.
Yeah.
And then when she closes her eyes, she opens, it's gone. Like, it is like this dream, and she's looking at something kind of longingly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, she wants to like kind of fix her hair. She does care about
deep down,
kind of what they think. Maybe she wants to be more like that or whatever.
And it molds into the next scene where she wakes up. They finally hit the end of the platform on Stillwell Avenue, which is in Coney. They get out. The corsage has been dropped, and the first thing Swan, who almost is now transcending like her, is saying like, we fought for all this here, and he's like, this is what's it. This is our life. And then he gives her the corsage, and she's like, why'd you do that? And he's like, I hate seeing things go to waste. And that's almost another metaphor of like, look at these people's lives. What the hell are they fighting for? This turf, like Cyrus was saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was saying it more maliciously.
And he's about himself too.
Yeah, it's like transcending.
He's not just talking about everybody else. He's talking about like, look at what, because he's like, well, I want to travel. I just want to get out of here. He's having this moment like his life he has been wasting life here.
And it's almost like this has opened this horrifying night has opened his eyes. Again, also to talk about who she's in the book to a lesser extent is Lynn Thigpen, who's the DJ.
Okay.
She was also in the working play with David Patrick Kelly. They both got cast at the same time, and she didn't realize at the time that they were going to see is just these extreme close-ups of her mouth.
Yeah.
And people our age, I think, also maybe a little younger, might know her from 15 years later as the police sergeant or captain in the Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego
game show on PBS.
Yeah, and that's interesting because she was on PBS, and then what's his face Sanchez. Marcelino Sanchez was in 3-2-1 Contact. He was in the Bloodhound Gang, also on PBS, which is very
She's
odd.
also in Tootsie. She's in a lot of stuff. You
And
would recognize her if you saw her, especially if you hear her voice, because
Well, the DJ. It's another weird effect that Walter Hill does, where everything's played in extreme close-ups. You see extreme close-ups of the record, the needle, or the reel-to-reel player, or her mouth going into the phone, and she's got such a distinctive mouth, and her character is kind of chilling to me. I've always thought because she's completely apathetic about the whole thing. She's very sexual, just how she delivers lines, and she's almost a liaison giving the news out. She's almost like the Tokyo Rose in the old days or whatever, giving the news out to the spies, because she's the one in the book who plays the Beatles song to signal the gangs that it's okay, let's move into the meeting. In the movie, she's the one passing the information on, like, oh, the Warriors, we heard they got past, blah, blah, blah. So and she's playing Nowhere to Run for them at the end, and it's like she's completely apathetic to the whole thing. Who cares, but she knows, and, I think it's a great part. And she's the only female in it aside from Mercy,
Yeah, it's a great device. It kind of moves things forward. It keeps...
She's again, almost the Greek chorus.
Yeah, definitely.
Of the whole thing.
And then the end, great. Like you said, the impact of, like, we've seen this whole, like, the whole thing has just been this one horrible night, and then and then they get off the train and Coney Island, they're home, and it's daylight. It's like the salvation of, like, the new day. Like, that horrible night is over.
Yeah.
We have it is very powerful to have that last scene, as you mentioned, be like the only scene where there's sunlight.
And they have to face off against the rogues, and then comes the famous...
And you see, like, they're walking through, like, it's still so early that nothing's open,
It's very early morning.
They're walking through Coney Island as the sun's
amusement park.
The sun's coming up, like the Wonder Wheel and everything. None of the, the park's not open yet. And...
the rogues are following them in the Rogue Mobile, which is like an old Cadillac hearse. And then you have the famous line where David Patrick Kelly says Warriors come out to play, which I guess people know already.
People know that, but is it true that do you know if it's true that he improvised that?
Yeah. Walter Hill, they got to the scene, and Walter Hill was like, we need you to do something, because it's kind of anticlimactic. We need you to somehow taunt them, sing them a song, do something so that there's some kind of, like, aggression there. And he was thinking, and Walter Hill gives David Patrick Kelly the credit. He says, I invented the opportunity, and David Patrick Kelly did it. And he ran over, he said, and at the time at Coney Island, they used to sell little bottles of beer that are like a certain size. They're almost, I don't know what you call them. They're not even like 12 ounces. And he found them under the boardwalk. And where he used to live downtown, there used to be a really scary guy that used to live next door to him, and the guy used to fuck with him. And he would say, like, David, and do like that to him. So he said that's a perfect thing. So he grabbed the beer bottles, and since he was a theater actor, he did kind of method where he never had any conversation with any of the cast of the gang, the Warriors, until that beach scene. So nobody had met him. He stayed away, and the only time he interacted with them was at that end scene. And when they were filming the scene with him with the bottles, the cast and crew, I guess, had found a woman's pocketbook underneath the boardwalk, and there was money in it, and there was ID. What should they do? So they were filming this to the side, so no one saw what he did. So he improvised with the beer bottles. Warriors come out to play, and then the editor craftily extended it so that you had the clanging first, then you had him, and it even extended him a little longer with the clanging near the end. And the next day when they saw dailies, it freaked everybody out. No one wanted to go near him because they thought he was a freaking nut. And it was brilliant. And it's like, to this day, that's sampled in Wu-Tang Clan songs. Yeah. It's all over the place. And the end ends where, he's like, I'm going to kill you guys. And they're like, why'd you do it? And he's like, there's no reason. He just likes doing things like that, killing Cyrus. And then it's like it's the Western showdown. Yeah. And he shoots, he misses Swan throws a knife, gets him in the arm, and the Riffs show up, and the Riffs are like, we found out what's really happened, and another quote line, you Warriors are good, real good, the best. And then he lets him go, and I found it funny that
I also love the line with Swan's like, are you looking for us?
And he's like,
still looking for us.
Yeah, and he goes, no, we found what we're looking for. He's like, no, it wasn't us, it was them, Warriors. That's such you're right. It's like it shows how pathetic his character is at that point. He's on the ground. He's like, no, it's going wrong. And I find it so funny that the Riffs are so organized that they have about 100 guys, and they were able to get down to Coney in a half hour. You know what I mean? That's how organized they are.
Yeah, it took the Warriors all night. From like midnight to like 6 a.m.
to get down to Coney, where they got 100 guys in a car or whatever in karate uniforms.
Back then, I mean, you figure they're warriors. They're tough gang members. They probably could have just like mugged a couple of good people and got enough money to take like 2 taxis. I
don't know.
The Bronx.
Well, that was the problem in I guess
probably would have only cost like $20.
We should quickly talk about the game. We got the game when it came out October 2005, and we played that game out because you had PS2. I don't really play video games. I bought the game. You and I played that thing. We beat it. And I thought it was so out of character, and as good as the game was, why the heck were they having you do these little missions like you got to mug somebody, break into a car, steal stuff? Because in the movie, you kind of root for the Warriors. You like them. Yeah. But it's a little more like the book. It's kind of more realistic. Like, that's what they do. They stab people to death. They rape. They steal things. And why they didn't just steal a car, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe none of them know how to drive. It could be just something as stupid as that. You know what I mean?
Some loose ends I think we should talk about before we wrap up. The Thomas Waits.
Yeah, Thomas Waits, who was this Fox character. He was supposed to be the center of the film, and he was supposed to have the relationship with Mercy, but then for some reason their chemistry wasn't working. It was working between Michael Beck, the Swan character, and Mercy, and he was, I guess, having a horrible time with Walter Hill. They were bouncing heads.
They were very he was very difficult, or they were just not having bad chemistry. I heard reports that he was really pushing for improvisation, and Walter Hill wasn't into it, or something. They just totally did not get along.
So Walter Hill fired him 8 weeks into shooting. He's not credited on the film because technically he didn't finish it. Walter Hill says now he feels really bad about it,
and not only fired him off the film, killed his character.
Yeah, and I never
rewrote the script.
Yeah, I never understood that who died in the movie when I was little, because I couldn't figure out, because I guess that's all done by stuntmen.
Yeah, it's a stuntman.
Because they must have just shut him out, so I couldn't tell who it was. When you see him fall, when he's fighting with the cop, he rolls out into the tracks.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
They just
it was
put
Fox.
like an afro on.
Yeah, and then
on
he just
stuntman.
And I was like, who the heck is that? So it's so weird that he was just kicked to the curb. They just completely eliminated the character. I got to give a shout out to Andrew Laszlo, the DP. Freaking awesome, his idea of how he shot it. He said, you know what, it's going to be a night shoot, it's going to be really hard, so why don't we introduce the idea of a downpour early enough in the film so that it'll give us justification to every subsequent scene to have the pavement wet, so that it would then beautifully reflect colors and light, so you get that much more light, and I think that works. The device is awesome. He also, the subway scene you alluded to where Swan and Mercy kiss, when this train goes by, he just shot light into the train, so when a train goes by, it would bounce off the train, so that they choreographed it perfectly. When they kiss, the train goes by, and it's just like this moment until the train leaves. They go apart. He did a lot of good stuff.
Barry Dvorak.
Barry Dvorak. That's another thing. The music in this movie is freaking awesome.
It's a great score.
I mean, if you want to work out to something, you put that opening Warriors theme on. I mean, it is frightening, and he credits himself saying that he thinks it is Barry Dvorak. It's the first, with the exemption of the Eagle song at the end, which he wrote with John Walsh. And John Walsh, not from America's Most Wanted, Joe Walsh, and that they were ended up using in the thing. He credits this to be the first rock and roll and complete rock and roll and synth score, synthesizer score completely. He says in a movie, and
questionable.
Yeah, well, that's his credit, he says, and he added the synth to make it more eerie, and I think that he completely agrees. I love
it's a beautiful
synthesizer on this.
Like
it's freaky, it's very atmospheric. Just that opening, like you said, that montage. I don't think would be half as good if the music wasn't there. You know, because it's cut to the music, and it's really. And I remember when you and I went to see Cream with Dave Hastings. And we got lost coming back, and we got lost in the Bronx on the highway.
It was Phil Nuvian.
Was it Nuvian? I thought it was Dave Hastings, a friend of ours. But we were listening to the Warriors soundtrack.
Yeah.
And he had that song. I remember that. We were like under the apartments on the Cross Bronx Expressway listening to the Warriors soundtrack.
So he also did the Ninth Configuration, the music for that movie.
He did a shitload of movies.
Night of the Creeps,
Night of the
you
Creeps.
kind of alluded to earlier.
He did the Belarus File, which was
Excellent.
the
Exorcist 3, which is a personal favorite.
You loved Exorcist 3. And it's a really good movie. You skip Exorcist 2, do Exorcist 3. He did the Belarus File, which was Telly Savalas' comeback role in the 80s to Kojak, the TV movie. He did a lot of great stuff. So he's good in it. We got to give a shout out to Bobby Mannix. She's the costume designer that did all the costume work, and she really, tour de force, all that kind of crap she did.
And I would say the other thing that's like shockingly good about this movie in terms of like quality is like the fight scenes, like the brawl in the bathroom.
It's brutal.
It is awesome.
It's so brutal. And Walter Hill has a thing where he likes throwing a slow motion shot in there, and he says you can only do it from one angle if you want it to work properly, and he does that quite a bit in that final. I mean, that's the only set in the movie, too. They designed the bathroom in the subway, and that was a set because they completely trashed it. It is, like, brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about brutal. They talk about the Baseball Fury scene. They wanted to pay homage to Kurosawa in the Akira Kurosawa in the fight with the Baseball Furies. So that's why they use all long lenses for the scene.
Yeah.
And they kind of use the baseball bats as like samurai swords.
Yeah.
And they first cut it without music, and they didn't want to use music. But evidently, according to Walter Hill and Barry Dvorak, they said it was so brutal, just the sound effects, they had to lay some music to lay off the brutality. So they put some music into it to kind of like make people realize it was a movie.
But it's an amazing, like, you don't see, I think that's part of, like, I was talking about how it seems like such a low budget movie when you watch it. It seems like that there were so many limitations, and we talked about how like the chaos and the amount of people they got for the meeting scene. Like you just like the fight scenes are so great in this movie that you would never, they transcend like any other kind of limitation that it looks like that the movie might have.
Yeah. I know I've heard some Subway purists. There's a lot of Subway purists out there. They're kind of upset because I guess they didn't really pay attention to the markings of like the BMT or the RIA, of what Subway trains. Well, what can you do? You try your best on that kind of a thing.
Anyway.
And lastly, I guess they were kind of worried about at the time that there was about 4 or 5 different other gang films coming out, so they had to speed it into production to have it come out because you had The Wanderers coming out, you had Walk Proud, you had Boulevard Nights coming out, and then we alluded to the next year, Escape from New York came out, which I guess people call a gang picture. I didn't really know. So
yes, I guess Isaac Hayes is.
He's a leader of a gang.
Group is a gang.
So they wanted to put this out first, and it came out first, and it did so well that it was kind of like the top gang. I've never seen to this day The Wanderers, that movie. I've seen The Outsiders a couple times, which was a couple years later.
I've seen The Lords of Flatbush.
Yeah, no, not that
with Henry Winkler and Sylvester Stallone.
And then they use wipes in the movie, which was an old effect, old fashioned. I really like the use of wipes.
The use of wipes is fun.
They originally wanted to use Orson Welles to narrate an opening to put in that like kind of Anabasis opening in, but they didn't end up using it with him. There's TV versions of the movie that have longer scenes. There's a scene in the opening where you see a knife being thrown into a bulletin board, and that's supposed to be Penn Jillette actually throws the knife, his arm, because he's such a good knife thrower, I guess. I've heard. I'm just trying to think of all these little loose ends.
And I think the other, if you end up watching the director's cut, Walter Hill had this vision for it of it being like a comic book.
Yeah, and that's another thing in the book. The the character, the junior, has a comic book in his back pocket, and it's the comic book of Anabasis that he's reading. The Greek story about this. Yeah, and to get to the 2005 cut, I'm not a fan of it because I think I certainly love what he was going for. Kind of like that creep show kind of a thing where, like, the scene will stop, it'll turn into comic book, and then the camera will move up from one panel and go to the next panel, which is the next scene.
The transition.
Yeah, and I think that works, like, say, in creep show, but for me, it does not work at all in it. And I'll give you the example of the scene where they come out on 72nd Street, which is supposed to be 96th Street, and they in the original cut that we just watched, they come out, they're like, what are we going to do now? And they stop, and you see them, like, looking like, what the hell? And then you cut to the baseball Furies. And it's like, shit, that's freaking scary.
Like, they see them before the audience
and then we see them, and they're all freaky looking. Like, holy crap, they look like Kiss, like the makeup, they're very scary. But in the 2005 version, it's like, you see their reactions, the thing stops, they turn to a comic book, the camera lifts off a panel to them, and the next panel comes down, and then so it kind of takes you out.
Yeah.
It's a device that kind of takes you out of it, and I didn't like it. And that's kind of my whole thing about the movie. I mean, even like the opening shot is so, if you see that opening shot anywhere of the Wonder Wheel with the music, that's the fucking Warriors. It's like, you can just put that on a t-shirt, really like underexposed night shot of the Wonder Wheel, and you're like, oh, that's from the Warriors, with that eerie music beginning before you get into like the and even at the beginning of that, you see like a comic book panel that really takes you out of it. I don't really like it.
Now,
well, one last thing, I have two. The What If Game, Tony Danza was originally cast as the lead, but he declined because he was doing Taxi at the time.
As Swan?
As Swan.
Okay.
And the other guy would have been that guy, Erwin Keyes, the cop in the Rondo Hatton lookalike. He was going to be Ajax. So that would have been a weirder movie if Tony Danza played Swan. I mean, we wouldn't have known him. I guess he could have fit the part. And Ronald Reagan was such a fan of the film, he screened it at Camp David and called Michael Beck up, the Swan, to tell him how much he liked it, the movie. Huh. Yeah, he said, he just like me, but you give him credit. He was a movie actor, so he does look at it like in a different frame of mind. He called him. He's like, that was a great movie, And I think he might have even referred to it in a speech because he talked, Dirty Harry and Terminator.
Now, is this like an anniversary for the movie? Because
79. So.
Because they just had
this September, if you're in the New York City area, they're having a reunion. Maybe it's the 30th. Would it be the 30th? No, it'd be the 36th this year. It'd be the 36th anniversary of the Warriors, and they're having a big Coney Island reunion. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know.
They say the cast.
Some of the cast. I don't think, like, if David Patrick Kelly was going to be there, I'd go. But it's going to be September 13th. We're taping this. This is airing the end of August. So if you're around in the coming weeks, and you can get to Coney Island for September 13th, 2015. We're at. You got to go. Because it's going to be some pretty cool stuff, and I bet you people are going to be dressed up as the Warriors and the Baseball Furies. It's going to be freaking crazy if you're able to go.
So you'll be listening if you get this when it drops, or whatever you say. Now you still got time to go. If you're catching this late, you missed it.
I'm sure there's tons of stuff we didn't cover. People who are such fans want us to talk about. I think we hit all the points as much as we could in a limited time we had. I guess a last shout out to Rose Clemens. She's a very famous embroiderer. She did all the patches her own, handmade. All the gang patches in the movie. If you're an embroidery fan, you'll know who she is. So what do you give the movie?
4
out of 5. Caffeine jolt, Saturday night sleepover colas. Yeah. I would give it
buckets of pizza.
I give it 4 out of 5 sleepover stars. I think it's great. I think it holds up. Sadly, I hope people who are watching it, maybe I didn't ask my friend. Maybe he was watching the 2005 version, and that could be a hindrance.
Could be.
It does certainly emphasize the comic book. Yeah. But it's not dated to the extent that he was saying. So I bet you maybe that he was watching the 2005 version. And there's a whole crap load of lines in here. When Ajax says, I'll take that bat and shove it up your ass until turn you into a popsicle. That's like on the 50 most badass tough lines of all time and baseball lines of all time. Like, it ranks like number 12. So there's a lot of quoted things in this movie, lines. So I think it was great. I think if you haven't seen it, you should go see it, although we probably spoiled the shit out of it to you by now.
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah, and your line, you used to always say it to me, I never heard it except from this movie. What the shit are we going to do now? That's in this movie. Vermin says it.
Oh.
You know, which I never heard anywhere else. And then lastly, a reference to you is, you know, when Rembrandt is in the, when they're with the Lizzies and they're like, these bitches are packing. Well, Rembrandt's really like apprehensive about what's going on. He doesn't fully trust them. He's very much like Carlito, what's his name? Carlito LeBron. What's his name? Brigante. Carlito Brigante in the, and you know, at the beginning when he's in the back of the club. You know, there's no beer down here, man. He's very apprehensive. So that's my reference to Carlito. So, all right. Please check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Player FM.
Player FM. We're on Stitcher now.
We're
also
on Twitter at Sat Sleepovers, at Sat Sleepovers. We're on Saturday Sleepovers at Podwitz.com is our thing. We're on Facebook again.
Yeah, we got a nice little community building on Facebook.
We're, of course, on iTunes. You can download us on iTunes, or you can download us directly from our site, Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers, which is Saturday Sleepovers at Podwitz.com.
Now, we had earlier casts, we were putting out the call for requests.
We've been getting requests. And we want to let people know.
Which is very exciting. I want to throw a shout out to Jordan Lettner and Jason Derenick. These are some Facebook friends that are throwing out some requests, and we promise that we
are going to do a request in the coming months.
To it.
Yeah, and Chris Frodel as well, who's a big fan of ours. We're going to be doing requests very soon. So for all those people who are putting requests in, you need to listen in the coming months, because we are going to be getting a request done. And it's going to be very exciting for us, because I think we've maybe nailed it down, but we're still talking. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know,
There's so many.
We have plans, because we have our year anniversaries coming up. So we have,
then you hit Halloween.
Some plans, and then we got some Halloween action happening.
Yeah, so it's getting already.
So
you know, we got to go to weekly. There's so much going on. So please check us out. Please tell a friend about us. Please like us. Please share us. Please listen to us. Why don't you let us know what you like, you don't like? It's interesting what's taking off and what isn't taking off.
Not only listen, go on iTunes, subscribe to the show. You can also put up reviews on things like Stitcher and iTunes.
Let us know. Let other people know who don't know about us how you like us. And it's interesting. Start the dialogue. And you know, maybe we'll do a movie that you don't know about, but you're like, hey, that sounds good now, and I want to go check it out after the shit got spoiled the hell out for you. So,
or if you see we do something and you like what we do, watch it,
and
then
listen to it. There you go. See, then have a sleepover with your friends or your parents or whatever you do now. So, and check us out in 2 more weeks, because we'll be back, and we've got some other good things coming up. So, come back soon.
Later.